6:03, we'd like to call the meeting to order. There was a slight delay due to some technical difficulties, but we're good to go now.
Oh, wait. Do you still need me to reply back to the recording? Boxes?
Nancy, should she exit both boxes? Okay. All right, would you proceed with the roll call?
Yes. Right, roll call, we have Amber Greaves.
Here.
Kristen Burbeck.
Here.
Thank you. Gordon.
Here.
Joanna McGree. Here. Sarah Noisy.
Here.
Michael McDonald, he's gonna be absent today. Rita Trainer.
Here.
Todd Gleason.
I'm here.
All right, that's it.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is agenda approval. Are there any changes to be made to the agenda or any additions, deletions, corrections? Hearing none, we'll move on to public comment. We do have a number of government students in the audience tonight, but I don't know if they have any comments they want to make. They're indicating no. Is there anyone online that has, from the public that wants to make any comments?
There's people online, but I think these are the students that were.
Okay. Okay, then we'll move on to the OSAC discussion items. First item there is staff and town council liaison updates. Ari, would you like to begin?
Sure. Okay, I'll try to get through mine pretty fast, just like quick updates. We had a meeting with Boulder County Youth Corps a couple weeks ago, and we're just going over the project sheets for what projects we're doing for the summertime. So that's where we're at. And then the next step is they have a sponsor breakfast. And we'll have another meeting going over projects and deadlines and all that stuff. But everything's moving forward with that. And then in April 27th, which is the same day of our meeting for OSAC, we'll have the IGA approval for that for Boulder County Court, like the contract move forward. And Mile High Youth Corps, that was the other team that we thought about working with Mile High Youth Corps and Teens Inc., which is they work under Boulder County as well. And we're just waiting to see if we can get a team because they recently had the budget cuts. So then now we're just kind of in limbo. So that's where we were with that. We are moving forward with the open space part-time ranger position. So the deadline closed this Monday on the 9th. And we are in the process of reviewing the applications. We've had 77 applicants. Yeah, it's a lot. So Leslie and I are sorting through that right now. It's gonna take some
I'm
time.
sorry, Pari. How many applications did you get?
77.
Oh, my goodness.
So we're moving forward with that. And League Warriors, just a reminder, we will be starting the season soon. I think most people start in April. So right now I'm just in the process of getting the tools ready, and volunteers will be able to pick up the tools and materials in the front of the community center front desk. And then the GSAs, the front desk people, they are aware of that's coming their way. And let's see, summer programs are in full. It's going to be starting, I think, in April. Not really important date, but beginning of April, that's when registration opens up for the summer programs. So we have a lot, I think about 8 or 9 for open space. And then one of them is the fishing clinic. So I was able to book them again because that was a big one last year. So I was able to get in contact with CPW officers about that. And then the last one I have is eco counters. So those have been ordered and approved. We're moving forward with the payment. They've already shipped the equipment. So 3 counters we ordered with the wooden post, the subscription, all that fun stuff. will be shipped here, and then we can move forward with installing that at That's it.
Leslie, would you like to go next?
I will go next. Thank you. Just a few quick updates. The Colson property, which we're calling 299 South 3rd Avenue, was approved for purchase. That has moved forward with closing. We now scheduled to go to Planning Commission on the 17th for annexation and zoning. So that's the next step with that property. The council talked about the chainsaw art project at their work session, and they definitely paid attention to the information you provided in your notes and in your email to them, and they've decided that if we do chainsaw art in the future, if it will not be along the creek with the trees that are standing there. So that was well received from them.
I'm sorry, Leslie, was it also received such that the art would not go in open space, or is that still something that the town might want to pursue?
I think that would be the second piece of that. If we have people do chainsaw art, let's say in a parking lot, similar to like the ice sculptures kind of thing, then what happens to that art would be the second. Does it belong to us? Does the artist take it away? Does the artist sell it? Do we install it? So all that would be a whole nother process, where I think OSAC would definitely have the ability to have some input. So.
Thank you.
The advisory committee guidebook is being updated. We do this every year or two. Michaela would like to come to our April meeting and do an overview of that. So it's probably a 20 to 30 minute chunk of time, but I think it's worthwhile. It's probably a good exercise to do every couple of years. If for some reason we don't want to do it in April, let me know and I can see if we can push that back. But that's her first choice. I have some updates on the pond projects that Mile High Flood District is working on. So they have started on the 88th Street Pond, which is the one real close to Calmonte along 88th. I think they just mobilized there and started. Again, they're cleaning out the inlets and outlets for the most part. Once they get through that, they may determine that they need to, dig some of the channel out, but right now they're just focusing on just the inlets and the outlets. The floor pond, that's the one in Community Park, is not yet scheduled, so that will be next. And the vegetative plan that Mile High is working on with Corvus, we're scheduled for a site walk in May along Rock Creek. They would like to know if there were any areas that you felt needed particular attention. Either, there's erosion going on, or we really need to revegetate because we took some of that dead and dying wood out. So now there's a need to revegetate. So if you all have any input on specific areas between now and May, if you want to, you can just shoot me an email. If you're out walking along the creek and it's like, oh, this area looks like it really needs some work. That would be great to know. I have some updates on Coyote Ridge, but I can wait till our standing updates section for that.
Okay.
We had, as Leslie shared, we had a work session, and one of the discussion items was chainsaw art. You've already heard. We were in support of what OSAC was recommending, so I don't see that coming back before the council anytime in the near future, maybe next year. But I think it's pretty safe to say for now that's a non-issue. At our council meeting on Monday night, we heard from Brandon Richards, our Public Works Director, about the repaving on Indiana from Torrey's Peak to McCaslin. That's gonna happen between like right after Labor Day, or excuse me, Memorial Day weekend, until right before school starts. So that road, part of Indiana, is gonna be closed down for about a month while we do the repaving and all that kind of good stuff. And this is all part of the being funded through the sales tax that voters in Superior approved back in November of 2024. We also heard an amendment to our short-term rental ordinance with Sundance coming to Boulder in January 2027. There's roughly 90,000 people that are going to be coming to Sundance, and there's something like 8,000 hotel rooms in all of Boulder County and Broomfield. So there's going to be a huge shortage of housing. And so something that Boulder did is they passed a short-term rental specifically for festivals, which expands opportunities for homeowners to rent out their entire home during a festival like in Sundance. And so the town of Superior adopted that ordinance as well, just to make it a little bit easier for residents. If you live in an HOA or metro district, you still need to get approval from those respective bodies before getting approval from the town to get a license. But we're trying to recognize that some homeowners might want to make a little bit of extra money on the side, and having visitors here in Superior would be great for our businesses, and people are going to shop at our businesses and go to our restaurants. So that would be a really great opportunity. It could also put Superior on the map as well. All of the Sundance events are going to be focused in Boulder in 2027. There could be opportunities in some of the out years where satellite communities like Superior could potentially host a screening. So we thought this would be a great opportunity to maybe put our name out there, and who knows, maybe we get a couple of Sundance organizers stay in Superior for those 2 weeks and they love it so much, like, hey, let's have an event at the civic space or the community center. So pretty happy about that. And then prior to the council meeting, we met with Rock Creek HOA to continue the conversation around fence maintenance, and we also scratched the surface on craft contract that the HOA holds. So we're in conversation with them on trying to figure out how do we resolve the issue of fence maintenance and fence replacement for fences that are on private property within the Rock Creek neighborhood.
But no decision.
There's no decision.
Big issue.
It is a big issue. I think the council would like to get this figured out sometime in 2026, because it's been something that's been out there for a number of years, and yeah, it'd be great to just be able to.
Well, it's only been within the last 2 years.
Yeah,
that residents have become responsible.
Yeah. And now that the fences have been painted over so many times, as Leslie has shared with the council numerous times, the fences aren't absorbing paint anymore, and some of them are at the age of needing to be replaced. So we're cognizant of what that capital cost could be, and how do we.
These are fences that are on private property on one side, and
It's all private property. They're completely on private property.
The fence is on private property.
what about a fence between my yard and an open area?
It's still on private property.
But the fence itself is in your yard, not.
So that's what you're deciding 2 years ago.
Exactly. For 30 years, it was someone, whether it was HOA or the town, was pitching in to do that fence maintenance. And 2 years ago, it became strictly to the residents. And so it was just a shock to many.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right, with the aging fences, it's a certain cost.
And not to get too far down into the splinters of fencing, but the fund that the town was using to do the painting and maintenance wasn't sufficient, and so the town was taking money from the general fund. And so when you take a step back and you look at this legally, the general fund is being used to benefit a private property owner, and that's kind of big red line in the sand, and so we're trying to figure out a way to, how do we work through some of these issues?
Yeah, and you know, the issue where the landscaping fee is being paid by people who are not beneficiaries.
So it's, I don't think that there's going to be an easy answer.
I don't think so either. I don't
My
envy you that.
personal opinion on this is not representing the council. My personal opinion is there's gonna be some compromise on both sides will be needed if we want to reach an agreement or some kind of understanding. And the council's goal is to really get things clear in writing so that 25 years from now, when none of us are here and the next board or council picks up the agreement, it's really clear what the expectations are.
Good luck with that.
Thank you. And then last but not least, this is a little bit more fun. The Northwest Passenger Rail Service is going to be getting underway in 2029, according to the governor's office. That's the governor's goal. But at the moment, they are going to be hosting 3 public meetings. Community Solutions is hosting this. One is going to be April 8th at the Longmont Museum from 6 to 7:30 p.m. The next one is April 15th at the East Boulder Rec Center from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. And then April 29th at the Westminster City Hall from 6 to 7:30. And you'll get to hear about what the passenger rail is, what's envisioned, what's not contemplated at this point. So I think there will also be an opportunity for the public to provide comments and input and ideas as the state works to get passenger rail, front range passenger rail up and running.
But at this point, it's not projected to go through Superior, correct?
It's
Louisville.
yeah. We won't have a station, but Louisville will. And in the meantime, the state is holding a contest to name the train. It's open through March 23rd, and you can go to ridethefrontrange.com/name the train. And the 4 finalists are the Colorado Connector, or COCO for short, the Colorado Ranger, the Front Range Express Destinations, or FRED, and then the Range Link. So you are so inclined to vote for one of those names that resonates with you, please do so before March 23rd.
No Thomas?
No Thomas.
Yeah.
I guess in San Francisco has Bart, we get FRED,
There you go. Or Coco.
or COCO.
What's the expected completion date?
It's supposed to start in, I think it's
In 29.
29, but November of 2029 is the target date.
To start or to finish?
The start passenger service.
Oh, to start that.
Yes,
Seriously?
yes. The state has been in active negotiations with BNSF for the last several years. And the line will run from Pueblo all the way up to Fort Collins, through Denver, up through Boulder, and all on existing rail lines. So there's going to be no new construction. They're going to be establishing temporary not shelters, temporary stations at various stops along the route.
Wow.
So they're trying to go lean and mean on this. It's going to be kind of a no frills at the station, since they don't want to. They're really trying to minimize costs and use existing rail lines and.
But you're saying temporary stations?
Yep.
So
So
are they going to make them permanent?
I think that's still to be determined. Again, I think they're trying to get the service up and running to demonstrate that they can get service up and running, since front range passenger rail has been talked about for decades.
And they
Well, they
collect the taxes
And
for
they
it.
collect taxes, and so I think the governor's office is really trying to deliver.
I had no idea there was an existing
Oh, yeah. There's a
rail
whole
line
podcast
that
on it.
jumps up there.
It doesn't come here.
This
The rail goes through Louisville right now. And I
Oh,
think
yeah.
that's called
That's true.
commercial, isn't it? Yeah.
And so the
It's
state's trying to negotiate passenger rail basically in between the freight trains
Right.
during commute hours. And I believe they want to start with 6 trains a day.
And it took a lot of negotiating because they were gonna have to build connectors.
Yep.
Yeah.
So hear more about it on April 8th, 15th, or 29th, if you or so.
Is that on the town website? The information about those meetings?
I don't know if it's on the town website yet. I can ask.
Leslie, do you know?
It may not be since it's not our meeting, but I can certainly work with the communications team to see if that's something we can push out as just FYI.
I caught the dates, but not all.
I have not seen it on our website, but, I don't know if, we can let you know where to find that information.
Thank you. And Gordon wants to put it in the notes for the meeting too. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the wildfire urban interface overview. Leslie, I'm looking to you.
Oh, this
Okay.
is Allison's bailiwick. She's the expert on this.
But I thought you'd introduce her.
Yes, so many of you know Allison. She's our disaster preparedness and recovery manager. Her title's like this long. But post-Marshall Fire, she's really been working hard to put things in place to make us safe currently and in the future. And one of the things that she's involved with and very knowledgeable about is the new state WUI code information and how that may impact the town and what that means to OSAC. So she's going to go over that and answer any questions you might have.
Hey, everybody, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can.
Yes, I can.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Hi, I'm Allison, and I have a big affinity for OSAC because when I first started about 12 years ago with the town, I was your liaison. So, hey, guys, I'm glad you're still going. I've been a liaison to a lot of the committees, but you are always one of my favorite. So the reason I'm here tonight is to talk to you guys about the Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code. And really, in the big scheme of things, it's for new development, and it applies to new construction of residential and commercial structures and defensible space around them. And then if you have significant repairs or alterations to an existing structure, and those alterations are kind of like if they're over 500 feet of an increased footprint, or say, for example, you replace 25% or more of your siding or something like that. So it's really, this code, this resiliency code, is focused on development. But of course, when you're implementing a new code like this, and it kind of lushes into landscape, which this one does, it's going to kind of have some ramifications for the purview that this committee really holds near and dear, right? So I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about it. Really, for these pieces of land, we're looking at landscaping, limbing up trees, not having trees 10 feet away from a roof line, getting rid of the junipers, thinking about not having wooden fences, right? And going to more fire hardened materials for structures and more fire-wise plantings in yards. Thinking about how it affects open space is our town parcels. Perhaps we have structures on a town parcel that we need to do some work on, and maybe then that affects the landscape around those structures. We also start thinking about, well, if I'm a resident and I have to adhere to this code, which it's not passed yet, it goes before the board for the 4th time on March 23rd. Oh, sorry, I think we changed it to April. So the first meeting in April, because I think spring break, we were all going to be gone March 23rd. So if that passes, then this comes into effect. So just a little caveat there that the council has not passed this code yet, but when and if they do, you'll start to see some of this language floating around. We've sent postcards to the parcels that are affected, to the, that may be impacted by this code. And we've got a website which you can look up more information on the town website. If you just type in WUI, which is WUI and Wildland Urban Interface, it'll kind of pop up Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code. One of the things we've been doing in my department is working on neighborhood focuses, especially some of the multifamily units recently. We've done educational campaigns about what does it look like to make your home wildfire hardened? What does this landscape look like? What do the plantings look like? We had our landscape templates of kind of water-wise and fire-wise all mushed together templates for homeowners. And some of the projects we've been doing, for example, at the summit the last couple of weeks, which is about 3.5% of our housing stock, about, 230 units. We've worked with the Sheriff's Fire Management Office and Wildfire Partners through their chipping program to really take out all the junipers, limb up trees. It looks beautiful over there. So some of the neighborhood projects like the Summit and the Ridge have both been worked on by the Sheriff's Office. And if you want to kind of take a peek at what the beginnings of these projects look like, or one that's well underway, you could just take a drive through that neighborhood and see what Firewise looks like. Of course, aesthetically, it's going to change the way our neighborhoods look and feel. And I think, in the 1960s, when everybody had the white picket fence idea of, what your yard could look like, and they had your bushes right up against your home, the landscape is slowly changing now, and what's recommended is changing as far as those aesthetics. So, like I said, how does it affect us in OSAC? We have these town parcels, we have our parks, and we have our open spaces. If we're asking our residents to implement this code along the WUI areas, our parks and open spaces are along the WUI areas. Just a lot of our neighborhood projects are kind of moving towards this more limbing up trees, these fire reduction zones, which are areas up to 300 feet outside of fence lines. And so that's kind of where this work is really focused on, to reduce that risk for our built environment in town and our neighbors. So what else? The fire reduction zones, just a little bit more about that. One of the things we're working on with our first responders, which is kind of my stakeholder group, our firefighters, the sheriff, Office of Disaster Management, and the fire management offices. So fire districts, everybody that runs towards the disaster while we're all trying to get out, right? So we're working on a operations response plan, and one of the key items in that are these fire reduction zones, to give firefighters more time to fight the fire once it's starting to get into the built environment, and also give the sheriffs more time for evacuation and traffic management to get people out. And part of this operations response plan is, how many sheriffs do we need? How many fire trucks do we need? What does sectionalizing of our infrastructure and water public utilities look like? When we start losing pressure, where do we turn things off to get more pressure to turn them on harder somewhere else? And so these fire reduction zones are just a piece of this puzzle to help give our first responders more time and our residents more time if we have another disaster like the Marshall Fire, to get our residents out. And I'd be happy to take any questions. It's not a real formal presentation, but I hope I went over some topics to start getting everybody thinking about what implementation and how it'll affect the committee, and things to think about coming in the future.
Any questions from Allison?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Todd.
Todd, you're on mute.
There, yeah.
Oh, good. Thank you. Allison, thank you very much. Can you elaborate a little bit more on these 300-foot hardened zones as they may impact our open space, along the north boundary of Coyote Ridge, for example, or or some of the fingers of open space between some of the neighborhoods? What should we expect? How should we manage those kinds of boundary layers?
Sure. So just a little reiteration, the Wildfire Resiliency Code only affects like the permitting process or the development process, but to kind of fit together with that and be good stewards of fire protection, that looks like limbing up trees up to 6 feet, 6 to 10 feet, depending on how big the trees are. So you don't have these ladder fuels that would broadcast embers to hit your homes that are nearby. It looks like clearing, junipers or shrubs that dry out, that are dead vegetation in those 300-foot areas along fence lines. So it's kind of what we've been working on in these neighborhoods. A lot of this WUI code is unknown. So the way that the landscape enforcement is going to be on the parcels, a lot of it is unknown, and we don't even know if council will adopt it. But these fire reduction zones, we feel, are very important, especially in that WUI corridor, to give our first responders more time.
And just to add a little bit to that, it's not necessarily rocket science. So a lot of it is common sense, and we've been doing some of this already, which is we've expanded our mow bands outside the fences. We've been working on limbing up the trees. We have done some mowing along that western edge of Superior, to create, maybe not a fire break, but a zone that is fire hardened to a certain extent. What you may see us do is when we replant trees, we're not going to replant them right next to a fence or within 30 feet of a home. We're going to, take into account some of these same guidelines that the residents are being asked to follow. We're going to try and do the same so that, consistently over time, as our landscape evolves, it will become more and more fire hardened, fire resistant, and more resilient over time.
Thank you.
And some of our trees that are in the open spaces are hanging over fence lines, for residential properties or near the fence. So those getting limbed up at least to where they're not, not touching the fence of a resident on these open spaces. Of course, the wood fences, are flammable. So.
Are there any other questions? Christy?
No, but great stuff, Allison. It's great to see
Okay. Allison, thank you so much for your time.
Sure, take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is migratory birthday planning. Ari? Well, actually, you're the next two items on the agenda, so National Trail Day Planning.
So for migratory birthday, you guys probably saw all the emails that I've been sending, spamming everyone's emails, but I have the list here. So one of them was about like job duties. I noted the ones that some of you responded about like what you would prefer to do, and I didn't hear back from some of you, so you can also write that on the back of the sign up sheet if you're attending, not attending, what you prefer, and then I can find a spot for you to, you know, for a job for you guys to do for the events. For birthday, if you can give me, I know last year, I think I ordered t-shirts for everyone. If you would, they come up with a new t-shirt every year because the theme changes every year. So if you want a new t-shirt, if you want your old one, that's fine. But if you want a new one to add to your collection, you can write your size t-shirt. It will be unisex. So just put like small, medium, large, whatever you want. And I'll pass this around. For the invitations that I sent out, I did receive some responses from some of the groups already. Couple of people are, you know, it's a busy time, so some organizations are saying, oh, we have an event already that day. You know, once summer starts, everything is like crazy. Yeah. So we've had some yeses, some nos, but hopefully as I think I put the deadline on April 3rd for people to respond back, just so it gives me enough time to like map them out, where to place them, things like that, and then send out details in another round of emails. But that's going, and National Trails Day. I'll just hop over to that for National Trails Day.
Migratory birthday, sorry to interrupt. Gonna be at Purple Park again.
Yes, so it will be on Saturday, again on May 9th, which is a Saturday at Purple Park from 9 a.m. to noon.
And then, so, the rapper program's gonna share a booth with the wildlife, right, for birthday. And all of those volunteers also, are they able to get t-shirts, or is it just committee members?
It's just committee members.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, because it comes out of your budget. Yeah, or open space budget. So yeah, it's just for OSAC. And then I think I've offered it for like our lead volunteers before, like for, you know, Tracy's the lead of wildlife, so she can get one if she wants, Peter as well. So
I don't need one.
You're
Last
fine.
year, so you
No,
can
you're
give
fine.
one to somebody.
The Trails Day t-shirt, however, is one of my favorites. No, there's another version of that t-shirt, but that would be a good one.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. Yeah, any questions about migratory birthday? Okay. For National Trails Day, kind of the same gist. I have not sent invitations out for that yet. I need to gather up some details for that, but the Colton Trailhead is already reserved. Some of you responded about the job duties for that as well, because I've attached that, so I'll pass this around. Whether you're attending, not attending, please note that so I know. And that event is going to be on June 6th, Saturday at the Colton Trailhead, 9 to noon as well. 666. But I think we are good with the shirts on that. I'll have to double check because that one comes out every now and then. Is there anybody here who needs a name tag other than Gordon?
And also, Gordon, do you have a new OSAC hat? Like a ball cap?
I have an extra one for you.
Did you give some out?
I did at one point, but
No, you had
I
one,
think I
right?
have one more.
Okay.
The name tags will be ordered. I think everybody else has a name tag, but the name tags will be ordered end of the month because I let them know like way in advance. I think they're just waiting for like the new people who are applying for committees, and they usually do one round of orders. So that will be ordered end of March. What else? Oh, for both of those events, we usually do like a raffle, right, for like attendees, like the raffle tickets and stuff. So I did want to ask you guys for the approval of your budget to spend on prizes and also material for those events that we give out to guests, visitors. So I remember last year on birthday, we handed out some resources, you know, like posters, informational, educational stuff for families and kids. So, for both events, I wanted to ask for about 500 for all of those things, raffle prizes, educational resources, all those things.
Is there a motion to approve the
I
$500?
move that we approve the purchase of the equipment for $500.
And the
I
second,
second.
Joanne second. All those in favor, signify by aye. Aye.
Yeah.
Christie and Todd?
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
I'm good.
approve.
Thank you.
Passes unanimously.
All right. And I think that, I'll have some updates for Raptor and Wildlife a little bit, but any questions about those two events?
Do you have ideas like binoculars? I think.
Oh, what I'm buying?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's gonna be similar to what we did last year, so we have like 2 binos. Same stuff we bought in previous years, trekking poles, hiking backpack, some bird guide books. Yeah.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the budget review. You received the information in, with the agenda this month and for this month's, tonight's meeting. So I'd just like to know if you have any questions, comments, feedback on that information.
Question, I don't know what it was. Is there a, like a fund balance that's generating income that drive part of the budget?
Are you planning on generating income as in earning interest?
Yeah, was there anything like?
Not usually much in the line of interest. There is some fund balance, but that is being wiped out with the purchase of the property.
Or it's the conservation trust fund, you know, open space fund, other like balance sheet balances there that are gradually being.
The town only provides balance sheets once a year. And it's sometime between May and June for the prior year. So if you're asking for a balance sheet, they aren't currently available, but on something that would be more current. In the conservation trust fund and the debt service fund, those two funds are really not something that the OSAC has any input into how the money is spent. The debt service fund is being for the debt that was incurred to purchase Coyote Ridge. And that's being paid for out of the open space sales tax that gets tax dibs on those dollars until whatever that year's debt service is, the interest and principal is paid. And then after that point in time, any of the sales tax on the for the open space tax comes into the open space fund. The open space fund is the fund that we actually have some input into making recommendations to the town council for priorities that we would like to see. For example, having Kari's position was something that the open space advocated before I was even on it. The position started about the same time that I started.
But,
And,
I can follow up with, we don't need to take everybody else down a rabbit hole with this.
Okay.
I'll just follow up with you separately.
Okay.
That question.
That's fine. Are there any other questions that anyone else has? Something that wasn't answered and. Okay. And I do work on my own so I'll answer them.
I think this is probably a topic for when we talk about the council dinner, but I just had like a small aside related to prairie dogs and just like the bigger discussion, if prairie dogs were to go into Harney-Listoka, we would need to set aside some small amount of funds. I don't think it would be in our budget though. Leslie, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that would be, sorry, I'm blanking, Leslie, what fund that would be for. If we were to have someone like a contractor available to weigh in on like prairie dog issues or for passive relocation, just like a small amount so that our ranger would not be handling direct prairie dog questions or management.
But
I mean,
that was by the developer.
That would be a relocation, but if we have prairie dogs living there long-term, someone who could be, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So that it's not like,
No, I know what you're talking.
sorry, Leslie, what was that?
No, I'm glad you clarified that because I was going to ask that same question. But I mean, as far as how do we manage, like if we become the stewards
Right.
of the prairie dogs, like if we move them and we put them on town property, we then in essence become their steward, and we have to manage that population, and that does come with some staff impact. I think that is a great item to talk about when we look at, do we want to request another full-time ranger in 2027, which is something I think you should strongly consider. So then we would have a ranger 1, a ranger 2 or 3, and then we would have our part-time. And really that, some of the skill set we would look for would be, if the community, if the residents have questions, if the prairie dogs need to be managed in any way, do we need to manage the population size? Do we need to manage them for any kind of, disease? Do we need to, put up any kind of barriers? That's all going to fall probably either on staff or we'll have to hire a consultant. So those would be the two choices. Different line items, but probably, roughly the same amount of financial impact either way. So I think we've had some conversations with Louisville and maybe even Broomfield too. Amber, I think you've talked to them about what is the impact? How many phone calls do they get? How many emails? What kind of time commitment is that? You do have to manage the population so it can't like grow out of control. So you have to have a method for doing that. And what is that method? So it is a responsibility when we take on that stewardship of wildlife,
Right.
Basically.
And I was kind of thinking as an example of, the prairie dogs along McCaslin that we have someone, I don't know if officially contracted yet or not, but to do some passive relocation with them since after the mowing, they, dispersed out further in that right of way area. So that would be the kind of thing I'm thinking about is like, someone who can directly assist if something comes up like that. So you're saying maybe that can be part of the discussion about, encouraging the hiring of another ranger versus setting aside just some budget money to have available if someone needs to be consulted with.
Yeah, and it could be both because, the staff are going to be the ones who are getting the phone calls and the emails, and they'll either have to refer them or answer them. And the staff will have to manage the consultant too. So
right.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know
Not
that
like we would hire an expert in that area for that because too small.
Exactly. Right. But I didn't know if that was part of this discussion.
I think it could be part of what feeds into it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And even if we don't do a relocation, we're seeing growth and migration of prairie dogs. So it's still something that we have to pay attention to.
And the next item on the agenda is the new member onboarding packet. Bios and acronyms. Todd has been coordinating all of this. Do you
Uh,
want to weigh in, Todd?
Yes, thanks to those of you that contributed acronym suggestions. I- It and the same for submitting bios. Christy, I got yours, and Joanna, I got yours. We have Rita, Mike's, Todd's, Gordon. Amber, I think we're waiting on yours. I think that might be it.
I signed to do mine as well,
Oh,
provided they're not-
yes, thank you.
provided they don't go anywhere beyond our team. Yeah.
Yes, I think that's our intent, that they're not posted publicly. There's no OSAC member candidates on the council agenda this month, so we have ourselves a bit more time. Yeah, but I would like to kind of wrap that up with it. So if there are any more acronyms to add, great. Gordon has suggested that we follow that acronym list with a short description of many of the acronyms, what they are and how they relate to OSAC. I'll work on that, or Gordon and I will work on that. Somehow we'll get that added into that packet. And when that packet is done, we can make a copy for everybody so they can see what's being handed out to our new members as well. I think that's the only update on that, unless there are questions.
Questions on that? Okay. Then the next item on the agenda is the council dinner topics list. And that was also included in the agenda that went out, but I have it in front of me, so I'll just.
And remind me of what day that is.
Oh, I didn't bring my phone with me, so I don't. April something.
April 27th.
Oh,
Thank
there,
you.
Leslie's got it.
Thank you.
And that'll be at 6 p.m. at Town Hall.
Thank you.
And the first item that is on the list is increased trail capital budget of $50,275, and that's an increase of 25. And some specific examples of why we're asking for that is for building trails and adding more trail counters. And we want to thank the council for the seasonal position and ask about getting a full-time position. As Leslie had suggested, even potentially keeping that seasonal / part-time position and in addition to full-time, so that we would go from one, over 10 would be, to being 2+. Rodenticides is the next item on. We did have wildlife management plan on there, but we felt that it was too soon to really be discussing anything with council about that. So that's, I left it on there so that you would know that it was considered, but we weren't ready to talk with council about that. But rodenticides, and then the trail, and the reason we added this extra trail information is that we have an opportunity to partner with the historical commission on this. They are they're wanting to move forward with it in 2028. So our ask is for the trail construction component of it, and they'll ask for dollars for the signage. But Leslie had explained that if we want to actually have the work done in 2028, we need some feasibility and design dollars the year prior. Sorry, that was for the trail off. I'm confusing two issues here. So we have the historical commission trail for 2028 ask, and so we're just sort of laying the groundwork with council on that. And then the trail F, the Calmonte to Indiana east of McCaslin, that's where we're asking for the feasibility and design dollars. And that's a trail that we would, was higher on our listing, not Levi's, but high, and is something that we were. So I'm looking for feedback from everybody on this
What
list.
was the highest on our list? Just wondering how this one, how you landed on this one versus whatever the highest was. Which I can't think of.
Todd, why did F come up right now? And I'll look for the list.
I'm guessing it's because of connectivity to Coyote Ridge.
It was,
Yeah.
and with the work.
My
that they're
recollection-
doing.
Were you asking Amber about the ranking of the trails?
Yeah, I'm just wondering how the feasibility and design dollars for that one shook out relative to whatever was at the very top of our list.
Yeah, my recollection.
Or was that the top?
I don't have the material in front of me, Rita, but
Trail
my
F, I do now, Todd.
okay,
Trail F was number 3. That's what I thought it was. Trail L, Marshall Road underpass and connection to Mayhofer single trail. Single tree.
Single tree.
Single tree trail. That was number 1 with an average score of 8. Trail AB with a score of 7.13 was the second one. That's the Pirate Park and in Coyote Ridge. And then F with a score of 6.38 was the next one on the list, and that's the Rock Creek Trail to the Coyote Ridge connector. And yes, that is to give, so if we're moving ahead with getting the parking lot, and we're moving ahead with trying to get the signage out at Coyote Ridge and work on trails there, well, we thought, wouldn't the first thing to get done to be something that to let people in town connect to Coyote Ridge so that not everybody's having to drive to get there or to ride or walk on, other than to actually provide a trail that would give that access to it. And I know myself, that's been like getting down to Coyote Ridge is, I would welcome the trail myself as a much easier way to access it than what's currently available.
Yeah, agree, Rita.
So are there any questions or concerns about the topics? We have a little, that's quite a bit on there, as you guys who have done this before, and I realize, Gordon, that you haven't.
Oh, he did.
With the dinner council.
Oh, that was your first meeting, wasn't it? No,
No,
it might be this one.
that would be.
Oh, right, that was Louisville.
So there's only, typically, we only get through 3 topics. And that'll be the challenge this year. Mike, you'll have to keep us on. Because that was the one concern that we had. We have these things that we'd really like to have some time in the ear of council. But we're kind of concerned about being able to get through them.
So can I ask if we back up to rodenticides, did you all want me to cover that one since I've kind of taken that on as of the last meeting? Was there something
I would be
that we were,
delighted to have you.
well, was there something folks were envisioning, kind of like a recap of what we've done, or
Is there a request of the council related to the sites at all?
No,
you know,
it's
but
been
we had
driven
like
on
a
our
big
end.
public education campaign.
But are you gonna incorporate what the state's doing?
Well, I mean, I can say right now that, the Senate Ag and Natural Resources Committee, I believe that was, amended, I haven't looked at the amended bill, and referred on to the Committee on Appropriations, so it passed on a 4-3 vote. You're
Yeah,
interested,
and to scale it back a bit.
if you're interested to see who voted for and against, you can find that information. But yeah, that's where it stands in the state. So it next goes to Appropriations Committee.
Do you think OSAC is gonna have a specific ask around
Well, that
roadside,
was-
because that would be, I think,
That's
having a specific ask or maybe a small universe of an ask might be the topic of discussion. That OSAC has been working on this waiting for the state to do ABC, and we think we're gonna, would like the town to have a policy mirroring the state or whatever. the
Yeah,
OSAC
that's kind of what I was wondering, but I'm wondering if we need to see it work its way through the legislature a little more, or should we just put a quick blip out there?
I think we could put it out that
Mhm.
the state is moving forward. They haven't, but once they do, we would like to see the town take a similar position. Of course, that would depend on what the state actually comes up with too.
Yeah,
But I think that would be a fair way to,
It's at least giving the council a heads up that this is something OSAC's working on and the state's working on some potential legislation, and depending on how that falls out, OSAC will likely take a position and may want the town to take a position.
Could that be dependent on what the legislature does, or would we take a position anyway?
we kind of talked about that initially, and we were like, and it wasn't even on the state docket.
No.
When we first started talking about California had passed something, we thought, wow, it'd be great, and here it was.
but at that, when we approached it with council, they didn't seem very enthusiastic about jumping into it, but they were very supportive of the education program.
Right.
In my limited experience with the council, in my experience, if surrounding communities have adopted something or are in the works on adopting something and town staff is working in collaboration, there tends to be more support for those kinds of things. The superior is on the vanguard of an issue.
Yes.
My experience with the council has been less so to be on the vanguard.
Okay. No, that's good to know. Yeah, it is good to know.
That's not to say we couldn't get there.
Yeah.
I can just do a quick summary of the education campaign that Tracy worked so much on, and just kind of highlight that.
And that's one that, at least in the piece that I have seen, said this would impact private property owners as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's interesting. It's like in my own community, I circulated
Right.
her education piece, and yet I still see several in my small neighborhood. So,
Yep. And I think that's the effort at the state level too, just, despite all these things, like bigger measures need to be taken.
Comment? Given Mike's comment about the town council not interested in being at the bleeding edge of this issue, but rather following with some of the neighbors, perhaps, Gordon, this is an issue to raise with the open space groups that you're talking to in Louisville, Lafayette, and Broomfield, and seeing if there's interest in collaborating or at least doing something parallel.
We talked about that, and I'll cover that in a few minutes.
Okay.
Oh, it looks like it goes to appropriations on March 13th, so in 2 days.
okay. So we could know something
Which
before.
may necessitate another round of emails if you're so inclined. I can look into that.
Okay.
But if you still want to bring it up with the town council, just as a point of, hey, we're working on this, we're monitoring the legislation that's going on in the state. We're starting to have some conversations with Louisville Open Space. I think that's a really great way to kind of frame the issue and let the council know that open space, OSAC is doing some things on this topic too.
Oh, good. The more the merrier.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is conversation regarding art and open space. Karen, this is yours.
Yeah, so Todd asked me to, if I would consider bringing this up. If you recall, last month, we talked about the chainsaw art along the Coal Creek, and we really didn't have the time last month to talk about it in terms of and I should also say, nor have we been asked by the town council or town staff for our official position. But it is wonderful for us to have the time to talk about it. I think we all have different opinions perhaps. But let me back off first by saying I haven't done a lot of research on this, but I'm happy to have this as an ongoing project. Certainly various counties across Colorado have incorporated policies in terms of how they want to include art into their town spaces. It could be, well, and I should say a lot of times it's a combination of parks and open spaces. And typically along main corridors, bike routes, civic spaces. Anyway, so I wanted to talk about it with you to get a sense of your ideas of art in the town. I do say, first off, I am a bit of a purist, but I love the fact that other people have different perspectives. It makes it very interesting. And when I say a purist, in my mind, I love art, but I would like to see art in civic spaces. Maybe downtown Superior, near a playground. But
parks.
in parks, in playgrounds. But when I say I'm a purist, it means I don't want to go to open space to see an art, whether it's a statue, whether it's, and honestly, I love that open space. We were part of Orman Roche Trailhead, establishing that, and even the signage in my mind was kind of pushing it with what OSAC should be doing. And I also think that as we move forward, a clear designation comes with how things are funded. So we have our own set mission for open space, but if we are going to pursue art in what could be contested, a playground or a park, we're talking about open space funding recommendations and general fund recommendations. So it comes down to the money as well. But anyway, I wanted to throw that out there because as you go across the state and even in neighboring counties, you will see main bikeways where there could be a piece of art. And really just wanted to take this time to open it up to a discussion. What are your thoughts about it? And I hope I'm meeting your intent, Todd.
Well, I'd like to see natural.
You bet.
Not
man-made.
I think
That's what I
I
would
think
do
that's a
too.
good description. And I like in Superior Commons, and you're long on in writing on the sidewalk, big pieces of art they have there, but that's a park. And that's a distinction I would draw.
So, we are in a town that has a department that is parks and open space, right? And so it's very easy, I think, for residents here to even blur that, right?
Oh,
It's a department taking care of everything, which is robust and it's crazy. And again, we haven't been asked for our input or our position, nor I don't think has the town been asked to yet, but
Except for when this chainsaw.
exactly. So if that were to come, maybe that would be something that we could in the future provide an official position to the town with, how the park and rec department would outline that. And I also, caveat it too with the fact that I know that there is a lot of enthusiasm and excitement about Sundance, right? Which could be a phenomenal opportunity for our town.
Yeah.
But I think it needs to be measured with where that wonderful art conflicts potentially with open space.
Has OSAC had any high-level conversations with either CAPS, the Cultural Arts Committee, or the Park Committee?
No.
Okay.
And that would be great.
Because I can see this topic sort of bridging all three of those committees.
Right. Right. You know, we typically would respond to town council and town staff initiatives or thoughts. So this is us just kind of brainstorming it, thinking this could happen. I mean, we're at a chainsaw, you know, which, you know, could be lovely art if it was at a playground maybe, right?
Or civic space.
Or civic space.
Would CAPS or park be supportive of that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Great question.
But to your point, that could be some future work, and I can reach out to them and see if they are thinking along those lines. The only project that I can think of right now that the town is fostering, and that is with our Marshall Fire Remembrance. And so right now that project is slated to go just below Ormond Roche Trailhead, kind of behind the rings. And that came with a lot of open space advisory input, as well as Leslie, your input as well, to make sure that this was seen as an exception for this remembrance. And it would be passive in nature. While it would be a destination, it wasn't going to be an enormous visible thing. But that's the only thing I can think of that we've encountered where it really buffers up to open space and
That's being fun.
poses a position. So they're gonna be looking for donations, right?
Yeah, I would think, given the range of things that this committee would want to allocate money to, and the opinion of, you know, art doesn't belong in the natural areas. I mean, I agree with what you're saying, Kara. I just think that as far as the open spaces area goes, that's really low priority, both financially and from just a general appropriateness point of view. You know, I don't know how any other artwork would get funded outside of what's happening with this memorial, but seems like anything that you're gonna contract for with an artist is probably got there's big and visible, it's gonna have a big and visible price tag to it too. You know?
That I can't speak to, although I do know that there have been times, and Leslie, you might know better, we have had art given to us
Oh, really?
in the town.
Go ahead, Todd.
Yep. I'm gonna defer to Todd. He's had his hand up for a long time.
He was getting tired too. But Todd, you're still muted.
Yeah, thank you. Originally I put my hand up to comment on Kara's comment about whether we needed to move on this or not. And my concern about not addressing it in some way is that if you look back at how fast this proposal came to us out of the blue, got put on the town council work session agenda, and, you know, frankly, if town council had had 3 or 4 chainsaw art enthusiasts, we may be having a very different discussion right now. And that's how the next proposal would come to us. I think Mike's suggestion that we have some conversation with some of the other committees that overlap on this subject would be helpful. But I think it would be important for OSAC to have some general statement, whether the statement is art is fine or art should be constrained to civic and park spaces, or which I think is Kara's point of view, and I can subscribe to that one too, or something in between. It seems like there's some value in getting something on paper to provide town council some guidance and staff guidance next time somebody wants to donate art for the middle of Coyote Ridge or some
Sounds like
such
a position.
proposal.
Yeah, well, and all of us are saying that we agree with you, Todd, but until Kara has a chance to talk with those other two committees, I think that we shouldn't like say, oh yeah, it's okay as long as those two approve it and it's in either part and it's something that caps okay. Because one of those committees may not, I mean, maybe Parks will come back and say they don't want art in the parks, but there is some already. So I wouldn't expect that to be their position.
I don't know how much they influenced the decision of the placement.
Well, like your rights, there's one Parks. Do you recall if they were ever asked when art was put in there?
I don't know if that's topic or subject came up while she was on Park.
Okay,
That was before her time.
okay.
A couple of years ago, there was a large temporary exhibit that was, around the pond adjacent to the Purple Park. It was really big.
I remember those, yes.
Yeah, it was only for a month or so,
Yeah.
not a long time. And there's two of them, one big tall things, and then there was floating.
Yes, out in the ponds, yes,
Yeah.
I remember
I
that.
have no idea how that stuff came about, it was just mysteriously there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a temporary art exhibit, yeah. Mhm. Well, I like the idea of a position paper,
Yeah.
and I'd like to work on that. And in the meantime, I can also reach out to Park and CAP, realizing we don't have a time frame. Although I would suggest, Leslie, I mean, if you hear about needing to make a position for town, and then also to our council member, you should say, Mike Foster, if you hear anything that needs for us to expedite this, let us know. But I'll start working on a position paper and get your input as well.
Yeah, and I do believe that Boulder County has a position on this as well, so that might be something that we want to look at. What are our neighboring open space areas? How are they handling it?
Absolutely, because I mean, they're the epicenter of Sundance anyway, right? So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how
City.
they've been in.
That's
That's City, not Boulder.
Right.
And she said Boulder County, didn't she?
Yeah,
I've heard
Boulder
before.
County. That's who I was referring to, because I think that they pretty much say we don't do art in open space unless there's an exception, So there's always an opportunity for them to evaluate an exception, such as the Marshall Fire Remembrance Project.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I'll take a look at that. Thanks, Leslie.
And Sarah, just from my 2 cents, I think the conversation I heard tonight, where kind of like natural open space is for natural open space and art is for the civic spaces, or a built park or a concrete sidewalk or something like that. That could be your 30-second elevator talking point until,
Yeah.
Right,
position paper gets completed.
right.
So you could start there.
Okay, yeah. Alrighty.
Okay. Okay, standing updates are the next
Thanks.
on the agenda.
Why do we call these standing updates when we all sit?
One in every graph.
You can stand up.
I can stand if you like.
Stand up.
But I'm not giving an update, so.
Okay.
Kara, you're up first.
So the Raptor program, folks, this is exciting. Just over the last month, there have been 96 observations of raptors. This is an interesting time, although I think wildlife in general has to be so incredibly confused. Because as winter, as summer, I don't know, it's gonna be 80 degrees next week, right? But we're beginning to see a lot of raptor activity with the intent for nesting, and some that are already nesting. And so there are sites that I know people are already beginning to explore to see those nests, but it's just been really neat to see that. And last Saturday, we went out on a raptor walk. I think there were about 10 of us this month. I didn't count us, but it was amazing. So we started at the main playground in Sagamore. And from there we walked up to, so it wasn't in Superior per se, we went into Boco Lands, but we did the Singletree and Mayhoffer area, and then coming back up through Original Town. But while we were walking along, we saw a soaring bald eagle, a soaring golden eagle. There was a lovely kestrel that kept following us along the way, very territorial along the lines. We saw a red-tailed hawks, we saw a red-tailed hawk nest, we saw a great horned owl nest, which honestly, if Peter Rubrick hadn't been there with me, I wouldn't have ever seen it. And it really speaks to how much we need these dead, even cottonwood trees. It was right in the apex of two old trunks, and it just wedged in nothing bigger really than this. And I don't know how people see these things. I'm still learning. That's why the binoculars and the scopes are so critical. But that was probably my biggest takeaway is we need cottonwoods. We need them. And when we had the clear cut done along Coal Creek and Rock Creek, we lost so much habitat. And I know that you all know that. I want us to consider, and it was an idea that came from the Raptor program, adopting even some baby trees or something. I don't know. I don't know what this looks like. I haven't really worked it out what the proposal would be, but it's frustrating when we're so excited about these trees and then to even see some of the baby cottonwoods just torn down by, whether it's Mile High or Vargas doing cleaning, when you see, because they were the future for what we've already lost. And so that's something I want us as a committee to think about. I would love to help champion that as well. I don't know, save the trees, save the cottonwood trees. I don't know what the campaign would be, but something. I mean, you've read Peter's assessment in the past, and it was just really something for me to see that visually, to see this owl. And I just want more of that within our town. Coming up, Raptor program where we're going to be participating in Earth Day with the booth. I need to follow up with the town staff lead to really find out what I'm going to be doing with that, but we're going to be there. We're going to be sharing a booth with wildlife monitoring at both Migratory Bird Day and National Trails Day. And that's what I have for Raptors. Okay.
Coyote Ridge, Todd, I'm looking to you or Leslie.
Yes, Mike and I met with Leslie last month to talk about a kind of a pilot project to begin to get some assessment of the Coyote Ridge trail condition. And subsequent to that meeting, Leslie and I had a conversation about trailhead signage and so on. I think Leslie's teed up to talk in a little bit more depth on that. So let me defer to you, Leslie.
Sure. So as you all know, we applied for that Colorado Park and Wildlife trail planning grant to try and get some funding to put together a formalized trail plan for Coyote Ridge. We were not successful. It was very competitive. Pari did a great job doing the presentation, but our project is pretty small in comparison to some of these larger regional projects that people have been, trying to get funding for a decade. So in light of that, we did have our match for that requirement, and we can take that match and use it to hire a trail consultant. So it won't be necessarily a trail plan, a formal trail plan, but to hire a consultant to help us evaluate the trails, help us prioritize where we might need improvements, and then to actually do some of the work. We're hoping to find some entity that can do all those things. So taking that match that we have budgeted for the grant of 20,000. So we would put together a request for quotes from entities that do this kind of work, not to exceed 20K, and that would come out of our budget line that I believe the title is Master Plan Implementation. So we have dollars there for that. So I wanted to get everybody's feedback on that dollar amount. I think it's a safe amount, and we can always do it, increase that for the next year, redo that amount if we don't get everything done and we still have work to do. So that's moving forward. I should be able to get that request for quotes out here in the next week. So that's the good news. The other good news is the parking lot and trail project are complete. For those of you who have been up there, it might look a little different than you anticipated. We were really specific that we didn't want a big, wide paved trail. So what we got was what we asked for, which is a 4-foot compacted crusher fine trail. It is no more than 4 feet, not 1/2 of an inch wider than that. So we are going to have to do some maintenance on that probably every year to keep it at that 4-foot designated width. And there will, since it's a brand new trail, we will have some settling. So we're looking into what do we need to gear up so that we're able to maintain that trail to ADA standards. The other good news on that project is we still have about $40,000 left. And it was earmarked for trailhead and wayfinding. So we have money for our signage, which is great. And Todd did some research on some possible designs for a trailhead type of sign, which, we would put one at the parking lot, maybe one at South Pool and one at Pirate Park. Maybe that, those 3 locations seem like our trailhead locations right now. Maybe there's another one if anybody has a suggestion, but Pari, do you have that picture of that?
I have
Trailhead
one picture. Send an email with 2 pictures.
Well, I think the other image is just that welcome piece. But yeah, if you could throw that image up there, we'll start working on getting somebody who can produce something that's similar. So it'd be similar to what Boulder County does with a little bit of a twist. So it will have that graphic that we have on all the in-town trail signs. The burgundy and blue ones that we have up that have, arrows and mile markers on them. It'll incorporate some of that design into more of a trailhead type of a kiosk. So we'll start working on that since we have some funding available.
I have this one.
So we put up, a whole unit like that or some portion of that information.
I think she was thinking of having something.
You typically want to put up a map so that people get oriented. You typically want to put up your regulations so party can go out and enforce. If there's bad behavior going on, and if there's any other beware of rattlesnakes or any other seasonal things. Yeah.
One of the things that came up when I met with the 2 guys from Louisville, Lafayette, was signs for, electric bikes, and somewhere along the way, we talked about that. sometime the last few months. And we're talking about, is there a standard way of marking trails or what needs to be marked, for electric bikes, which ones are allowed and which ones are not supposed to be there. And with a setup like that, there's probably a way to incorporate something like that.
Yeah, we can put some of the guidelines for the class 1, class 2 electric bikes, because that is pretty much what we allow on our trails is the class 1 and the class 2. Class 3 pretty much are more for the street.
And are
So
we also still thinking about labeling trails in terms of difficulty, like
Mhm.
green, double diamonds? And I have a picture for those in the room. I mean, this is one that I saw down at Pueblo. Boy, that would, so it give you an idea of green or black diamond.
Oh.
Okay, yeah.
Kara, can you hold it at the camera for a second?
Oh, sure. Can you see that?
almost,
Almost. Yep. Oop.
Down.
Yeah.
or just send him the picture.
Oh, yep. I got it. Thank you. Yes, it was to address the question of trail difficulty. Carol, we were hoping to put in that request for quotes some measurement or other metric that would allow us to do some kind of green, blue, black rating or something analogous to what you have, what you showed here, so that we could give some feedback particularly at the trailheads. Leslie, did you were you looking for a motion to approve that the use of that formerly $20,000 matching money for a request for quotes on?
I mean, that would be great. It's not formally required because it's not the budget that OSAC has purview over, but yes. If people think that 20K is a good use of that, those dollars that we have budgeted for master plan implementation. So.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
Is this a 20 or is this a 40?
20.
It was
I
the
think.
20,
20.
Okay.
which was in the existing budget, and I heard there was 40,000
Yeah.
left over from the leftover from the Caddy project, which would then be used to put in the trail sign, the trailhead signage.
Correct.
Also move.
I'll second.
Todd moved, Amber seconded. All those in favor? Christie?
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously.
Thank you.
And Leslie, what about the money left over for trailhead and signage left over from the parking lot project? Do you need any authorization from the committee for that, or that's all under the umbrella of that project to start
Yeah,
with?
that was already under the umbrella of that project. So no formal action is needed there.
Great. Okay.
I'm just
thank you.
happy we have money left over. So.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too.
Your wildlife monitoring program.
I think, people are seeing things. In fact, the town had a nice piece on bobcats, I think it was today, saying to be unaware, be aware of bobcats. And they just did one maybe a couple of weeks ago on coyotes, which is important because the coyotes are, being very protected now with their, the younger being born. So, Tracy's still doing the monitoring the counts, and things are in good shape.
The bobcat's been spotted again.
Apparently, because they had a picture of them on a fence.
Christie, wildfire update?
Nothing for me, guys. Thank you.
Okay. Amber, prairie dog update.
Yeah, just a couple quick updates. It was a busy month for prairie dog stuff, so I apologize I didn't get my bio in. Todd was working on prairie dog stuff this month. But I did go to kind of a like a networking event a couple weekends ago, and there were a bunch of people in one spot who do all this prairie dog work, and it was amazing because it's kind of hard to track down people. So I got to make a lot of connections and talk to people who are doing relocations right now, and I was able to pass along to Garrett Companies, another relocator who would have potential availability for 26 and or 27. So pass that information along to them, which was well received. And then just another piece, Leslie, I don't know if you have any updates on this, but just thinking about, you know, in communication with Boulder County, how can we a little bit better pin down / formalize potential use of that Harney-Listoka site in the future for prairie dog relocation, just so that if it comes up, that there's not a whole discussion at that time, a lot of back and forth. So something like an MOU, whether that would be a possibility with Boulder County, just indicating that that in the town, you know, we're interested in using that spot for potential prairie dog relocation in the future. And I'm thinking of like with development, so we have that better pinned down, that we can access that site. And just for reference, it would be the area where the goats at least were a couple days ago. I don't know if they're still there in that southern portion of Harney-Listoka, but that's the area that I'm referring to. So I don't know, Leslie, if you had any chance to connect with town staff at all about the possibility of doing an MOU for that site, or if not yet, that's fine.
I have not had any conversation with Boulder County. I think it would, even though the council has your prairie dog playbook, this might be something we want to mention, but not get into depth in at the dinner, that we would like to initiate an MOU with the county. Because I think council would really need to be fully informed and on board with that before we actually reach out to the county formally.
Yeah, no, that sounds
This is the
like
property on
the Harney-Listoka.
South Boulder Road and Highway 42. That's part of it.
No, McCaslin,
Oh,
yes,
okay.
Trailhead,
It's
so
the same.
south. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's two.
There's 2 months over the property, so that's would be good to
Right.
clarify.
Yeah, I think
it's considered
Harney-Listoka South.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So where we've had I don't know if you've seen where the goats have been, but right there. So no, I think that's a great suggestion, Leslie. I just didn't know from like a legal perspective if that was even, you know.
I mean, I don't
something
know
that
if,
was-
I don't know if an MOU is the correct
Okay,
mechanism for that. We can ask, Boulder County, is it, it's part of the easement, so, where
Right.
we own it, but they participated in the purchase, so they have the conservation easement, so they would have to
yeah,
agree to that, and it really needs to fit into their overarching wildlife plan, because they have prairie dogs, they have the black-footed ferret, they have, that they're planning to bring into a close by area. So I think having those conversations are very valuable. But I do think council needs to be very much aware that we're moving in that direction, because we don't want to get the approval from Boulder County and then council says, whoa, we're not going to back this up.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm just curious, with the goats grazing there, has there had to be any sort of agreement like that with Boulder County with goats grazing there?
Grazing is an allowable use of the conservation easement already. So it's actually spelled out in there. So,
Just
you know,
depends on which animal you're grazing with, maybe. I don't know.
they do not specify.
Doesn't matter.
But yeah, I think that bringing that back up to council so they're aware of what your intent is good.
Just wanted to make everyone aware of that too. That's all I have for now.
Gordon, East County Open Space Museum.
A couple weeks ago, shortly after our last meeting, I got together with two people from the Louisville and Lafayette groups who weren't paying attention. You know, everybody stepped backwards and they got elected too. So, two real nice guys. They've both been with their committees for 2 to 3 years. One, a guy named Casey Lyons from Lafayette is really involved with Coal Creek activity conservation.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like Mr. Coal Creek, I think.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah, that's his not-for-profit. So we talked about so what's the best types of things that it makes sense for the three groups to address together, or in a common way or something. And so we came up with a list that would range from the e-bike regulations on trails and the rodenticide topic. The Coal Creek is kind of the thread, that's common to all three. So they talked a bit more about, okay, what are the Coal Creek type issues that should be identified, and both of them are thinking upstream, which is us, so what kind of things should we be talking about that affect the downstream communities, of course. And both as it relates to the vegetation and also wildlife. So I'm not sure where those kind of discussions would really go. We talked about the wildlife plan a little bit, that we kicked around a little bit at the last meeting a bit, and Joanne sent some questions that I addressed. Casey joined the Lafayette group right about when that wildlife plan was finished and implemented. So he wasn't involved, through the development of the thing. But he said, Lexi, that that he would be happy probably to come and talk with us if we wanted to, and to answer questions about, okay, what would you do differently? How are you getting the most value out of this 6-figure price investment you put into it, and then we could kind of take away what makes sense for us. They got a different magnitude of budget than we would have to deal with something like that. And I asked just questions about, so how do you use it to establish what do we need to work on? What are the big issues? Because I had a hard time pulling answers to those questions out of the document. I tried to have ChatGPT do that for me.
He did a great job. He sent the document to ChatGPT, asked him to summarize it. And from there, he just kept going back and forth with ChatGPT and refining his questions. He got a lot of great information.
Not to derail, but what I discovered is that when you ask ChatGPT to summarize something and identify the key points and identify the action items that are, in the document, it's spit a whole bunch of stuff out to me. And I don't remember seeing this. And so I kept digging, and finally I asked ChatGPT, are these action items and recommendations that you're sending to me, are these your conclusions about what the actions items and recommendations should be, or are you pulling those from the document? And it was the former. And it said, the document is kind of a general kind of position statement type of document for the community, and it kind of it didn't have a lot of structure in terms of what you need to accomplish and what are the priorities. And so I would think that if we wanted to take what they've done, half of that 300 pages or more of this appendix information, we could probably kind of distill down and do something much more condensed and focused than that big thing. I mean, I asked them, who is it written for? Who's the audience? And it's the community is not reading that big document, and so it's kind of hard. Now, Casey said they do use it to come up with what their annual objectives are. So I think it would, Lexi might be a really interesting person to dig into a little bit more based on, the interaction that you had. Enough about that. but Mark, the guy from Louisville, was interested too, because they don't really have a comprehensive like that either. Casey also suggested that we loop the area open space group into our little cross communication gang here, and so he's going to contact somebody in Erie. Before I move on, one of the things that kind of services different about us, particularly Lafayette, a lot of their open space issues right now are dealing with topics related to development. So, and we're pretty well developed out here. So we're dealing with different kind of issues, and they have more, I think, wildlife conflict concerns than I've heard discussed, in this group so far. So there are some differences, but we'll get together again in May just to talk about what feedback comes from the other groups. But what else did we cover? Signage. So that's same thing we were just talking about. Social trail reduction, which kind of goes along with trail planning and development. So those are the kinds of things that we thought we would have in common to work on together, or compare notes at least anyway. So a good discussion, I thought. Yeah.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the roundtable and new business. We have 10 minutes left on our allotted 2-hour meeting. Does anyone have any topics? Or can just go around? Joanne, anything for roundtable?
Well, the three of us have been exchanging what we've been gathering, and Ari did a good job, followed up with Lexi and asked some of the same questions, and I've got all her answers here. If anybody would like to see what the answers are, but some of the questions she asked was, what does the process and timeline look like to develop a wildlife plan? What are some of the obstacles that you faced? Asked about public support, asked about what was the budget and, the consultants and what they did. And how have you started to implement your plan? And she was really good, and she seems very receptive to getting back to us on clarifying any points. So it just seemed like, I think we've got to sit down as a group, and I know Amber has expressed interest, Wet has interest, Gordon has taken some initiative, and I, like to coordinate. We've got to identify what we want this thing to be. And I think Pari has a lot of, input. What are the problems that you see? What areas do we need to address? and then just get all those ideas down and then work from there. But their process took over 2 years. And they pretty much farmed it all out. So if we're gonna do a bunch of this in-house, and I think we probably could, especially with the help of ChatGPT.
Well, that takes water. That might be a bigger.
Take the lemon water.
But I think, we've surfaced a lot of the issues that we have to look at to get this going. And welcome everybody's input on this, and maybe we can at some meeting set aside some time to do this.
Why don't you just circulate this to
Okay.
use the group that I'm
Okay.
interested in looking at.
Information, thank you.
Yes. Okay, the reminders for April, one of the discussions. Oh, we haven't. What is this? Sorry, thank you.
Especially we're going to clockwork.
Yeah, Mike, you're up. Okay.
So just quickly, Amber and she already mentioned it, that she and I attended the public engagement the Garrett brothers did for residents last week. I thought it was fantastic that this developer has taken the Prairie Dog Playbook as well as our HHR position paper in terms of their considerations. My takeaway was they're still really focused on a 100-foot buffer, which isn't ideal for our recommendations, but they also were inputting into their design a retaining wall, which was substantial, and it came from input from this room. And I guess the biggest takeaway from that is that I don't think I would ever have thought this before, but I think traffic is the biggest issue. So in terms of just a crazy corridor already there, but it was good to attend that. And then also earlier today, I attended a farewell for Michelle Gazarek. He's a former chair and member for years with the ACES committee. She's going to be moving to Georgia, but she said it's a temporary move, and she's already got ideas of things to make her new neighborhood even better. But she will be coming back to us. It just could take a little while, 5 to 10 years. But and she said thank you to all of you here with OSAC when I was spending with her, because there are just certain synergies that exist between open space and ACES, and she enjoyed working with all of you.
Which ACES?
It's that the advisory committee for environmental sustainability.
Mike,
But it was an acronym. Yeah.
Okay.
That's all.
Gordon, do you have anything else?
Nothing else.
Okay, so now, the reminder. Oh, I'm sorry. See, I need your help.
No, I'm good. Thank you. I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay. Now, okay, the reminders. Outing, this is something we discussed in pre-meet. Is there an interest in having OSAC do an outing to the new trailhead in Coyote Ridge that Leslie talked about earlier tonight, and doing that before the April meeting? Okay. And then April 25th, Arbor Day is just going to be a tree planting event. And that's just a reminder that April 25th is the date for that. So vacation, I forget, I know you guys said at the preview, but I forget. Oh, good, you're forgetting too, so that.
So in April, we have our regular meeting and then the dinner with the council, correct?
Different dates, but yes.
And then, okay, yeah, I just want to make sure that.
And
That is down.
the trailhead visit,
And then the
we
trailhead,
talked about
yeah.
before our OSAC
So that'd
meeting.
be like at 5 p.m.
Yeah, that's when I would be able to make it. I can't make it during the day.
No, we meant to have it like right
Okay.
before,
Yeah.
but yeah. Okay. Okay,
Oh, I see.
and so the meeting is now adjourned at 7:57 p.m.
So rude. She literally.